Hey, welcome to another episode of Old Black Man Conversation. I am your co-host for the day, Brother David Harold Dudley III, aka Sweet Sunny D, and my co-host is.
Hello, I'm your personal street philosopher. I'm G. Gary. Um, Today we don't have Mr. C.A. Barnes, the original, the one and only C.A. Barnes. Get well, C.A. And we're gonna wing it today, but we think you're gonna enjoy it. So pay attention, give us feedback, and kick it back to Sunny D.
Yeah, I had a question for you, and I find it weird that two musical icons passed away within a couple of days of each other in California, and they're from our generation, so we should know a little bit more about them. What do you think about Brian Wilson and Sly Stone, or Sylvester Stewart?
I think, okay, there's two questions in there. I'm going to try to answer the first question, that they died within days of each other, but cosmically, I'm looking at how they were connected, and I don't really see a connection other than they were pretty good, I say geniuses in their music genre. Um, Brian Wilson, I actually didn't grow up with Beach Boys music, but later on in life, you came to appreciate their art for what they did. Sly Stone was me, right? Sly and the Family Stone. Genius, he was one of the first artists to do a mixed race band, and nobody tripped about it back in the time we grew up. It just felt like it was normal. But to answer your question, I did not draw any conclusions based on them dying within days of each other. I don't know. To me, what was more significant is the amount of black people who have actors and musicians who have died over the last 3 years. That's kind of I don't know. Well, you asked me, what do I think about them dying, Sly Stone and Brian Wilson, within days of each other? I guess I really don't. I'm not drawing any kind of a conclusion or conspiracy with them drawing or dying within days of each other. So how's that hitting you?
Well, I think it's interesting. They ran in the same circles, so they were acquainted with each other. Matter of fact, I was just reading an article about Sly coming to Brian's door one day, and when he opened the door, he started singing Sly's song. We recognized who it was. So
okay, so
they're both Southern California.
Okay.
And really, they both were musical geniuses.
Okay. So what you just said, how can you put that out there for people like me who don't have the backstory between their relationship?
Well, I didn't either. This is just something I just read off, just came out of the blue. I didn't know that either. So it had nothing to do with that, other than, to me, they were connected. I was a Beach Boy fan when I was growing up. When you were paying no attention to them, I was.
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably the last guy to see Sly Stone perform here in Seattle, out there at the Northgate Tavern.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think they weren't one and the same, but they're from that same generation, that hippie generation, California, San Francisco, L.A. They're part of that.
So
they're leaders of that, musically.
Okay, so you've got background information. I would like to research that further. So
well, here's what you do.
Okay.
You go to your computer,
Okay.
put in the words research it.
Okay, what words?
Yeah, you just see. Oh, never mind. Y'all keep. Go ahead.
What words? What search do I do?
What are you looking for?
What you're talking about.
Yeah.
How does he get the information you got? He doesn't know. I don't know how to ask the question. If he wants to find the information you got, how did you find it? You can't say I just went and typed some words. What words? We're asking how you did it.
Okay. I read teen magazines. I listened to records. I watched TV shows. I watched old TV shows. That's how I got my information. I didn't just sit around and say, I need information. It came to me because I was interested in it. So since I was interested in it, that's what I look for.
Okay, so that's a good point. So what about those that don't know or not interested in it, but now they are interested in it because you brought it to the forefront? So the TV shows you watch, they're gone. So we've got
No,
this.
they're not.
Okay.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Again, we're talking research. You want to research a TV show? Hey, they got old TV shows from Yin Yang. They're all on that informational highway, the internet.
Right.
It's all there. It's all there.
Okay, so let me throw this out there. Me and anybody else who wants to find out what is the relationship between Sly Stone and Brian Wilson, where do I go without having to do a whole bunch of side research?
Well, that's what it's going to take, is side research, because these folks were both, they went straight on. They were side research. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, but you got to do it in small bites. You're doing it in chunks. It's like you got to go over here and do all this research, and you got to watch all these old TV shows. So we got to fish with a little bit different bait. How do you get the hook out there to make somebody want to do it? Because let's face it, this is 2025.
Yeah.
If it's too many words and if it's too much time, it ain't going to happen, Captain. So how do we put in small, consumable bites so somebody will bite the hook and do like I do? Say, I don't know.
I'll say this. I hear what you're saying. You got to do all the research to get all the pieces. You've pieced together everything in your head from a bunch of different sources over time. And so it's easy to say, hey, man, I got all the information. You just got to look. Some people don't know where to look. That's the question. Now, to answer that question, though, the direct thing you asked, well, what was the relationship between Brian Wilson and Sly Stone? To his defense, I just typed in Google, what's the relationship between Brian Wilson and Sly Stone? Answer. Brian Wilson and Sly Stone, while not directly connected in a collaborative musical sense, are often linked due to their shared status as innovative, influential, and troubled musical geniuses in the 1960s who faced significant personal challenges. Both were architects of joyful, groundbreaking pop music, but also struggled with mental health, addiction issues. They are seen as parallel figures who embodied the darkness behind the era's optimism, leaving behind a legacy of both musical brilliance and personal struggles. So I think from there you can start to build similarities, it directly pointing out the things they had in common. And while I don't think, it seemed like at the beginning of the conversation that you were asking kind of what links those two, nothing, I think, other than, sorry, to come over to your side, what links those two in your head? Probably they're musical geniuses. There's probably not an actual link. They probably didn't know each other that well. There's nothing conspiracy-wise linked them together. I think, as you put before, kind of a cosmic thing. It's just what's happening in the world, and they happen to be doing the same thing. So in your mind, them dying together or in the same time is like they was connected. No, they just both was ready to die. That doesn't necessarily mean they were connected to each other. But, yeah. All right. I'm jumping out now.
So basically, a good place to start would be Google Sly Wilson, Brian Wilson, Sly Stone relationship. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you can really, that is the thing with Google, especially that they've added the AI parts of it. You can really just ask whatever direct question you have. You don't really have to beat around the bush, you know. You want a direct answer, it might not give you one, but you can ask it and it will, for the most part, give you an answer as opposed to leading you somewhere to find something else to do.
What?
Is that okay with you?
All right.
No, I mean the fact that being from the old school, doing the taking time to do the back research, is that an unrealistic expectation for today's society to take the time to do that? So letting Google.
But I think. I think what people need a big heaping dose of is patience. And that's one thing I got.
But expand on that in what we're talking about. They need a big heap of patience for what? We need it for everything, but what particularly are we talking about in this context?
In this context, to take a deep dive into Brian Wilson and into Sly Stone separately and see what you find that binds them together or binds them closer.
And I think you're right, but I think that's relegated to the people who are that interested. I think you have to be that interested in something.
I agree.
And I think if you are that interested in a particular topic, I think the patience, I don't think it naturally comes, but I think, I think you naturally have a little more patience for studying something you want to know about as opposed to...
Right.
You'll find
you know.
Yeah.
Like genealogy.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's not into it.
Mr. Producer?
No, that's me. We have a direct line of relationship, but he's really into genealogy, and I am not. And I just...
You coming back for your input?
I gotta go do something.
Okay. So, yeah, that's a good topic. You've heard of 23andMe.
Remember?
Okay. And they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Have they been bought out by anybody who's going to continue on with that type of research?
They were at the bottom of the food chain.
Okay, what do you mean at the bottom of the food chain?
Well, they were a mom and pop operation.
Okay.
That's what I mean. They were at the bottom of the food chain. There's probably 30 other groups with better resources and do a better job than they did anyway. Which is why they went bankrupt, is because they were getting outran. They were getting...
Who, the Beach Boys? Or who are you talking about?
Oh, he's talking about 23andMe.
Oh, my bad. I don't know what I'm...
Yeah, we kind of jumped across the street. So they were the mom and pop operation of genealogy research. Is that the correct term?
Yeah.
So does that mean the information they provided was not valid?
No, it just meant that they didn't go deep. They didn't go. Let me say this.
They only getting surface level info? Surface level?
Okay, I'm doing research on my family, right? Mm-hmm. And I find these folks. I document everything, right? Mm-hmm. My brother joins 23andMe. Now, the same folk that I'm researching right here, they come up on 23andMe ignores it.
Okay, who ignores what?
My brother ignores
Oh, okay, he
to
ignores.
23andMe.
Okay.
But I'm communicating with those folks that are on 23andMe, and I know that we're related. There's no ifs, ands, and buts.
Well, okay, I don't want to get too cosmic, which I have a tendency to do. We're all related back to Lucy when there was one continent. And she was an African, so we're all related. So break it down when you say we're related, we are all related. But in terms of, you mean like in tribal relationships or
Familiar.
Hmm?
Familiar.
Familiar? Okay. So, okay, I will say this about 23andMe, which I noticed too, is, well, first of all, I don't know about the other ones you mentioned.
Heritage.
Okay. And what else?
Ancestry.
Ancestry. Do a price comparison. To me, 23andMe fit into my range for what I want to pay for that kind of research.
Right, and guess what? You get what you pay for.
True. Now, the other services you provide, what was their base cost? Just the base cost.
You know what? I don't know because I.
That's very cheap.
For research. Well,
No. It depends on what you're trying to get.
okay.
What are you trying to get? Because most of that information is available for free. You just got to know how to research.
Okay.
But you don't need to pay all this money to do all this stuff because the information is already available.
But when you don't know what you don't know, you're paying for what you don't know, right? A lot of times. It's like when I had my business troubleshooting, a lot of things I did, anybody could do it, but they didn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they would pay me to do it. So, but to your point about the research, 23andMe cost more than $23. Was that $23 one time or a month or what?
Month.
Oh, okay. 23andMe, I think it cost me $80. And, I did this thing. They did a cheek swab, whatever. I got stuff back. But to your point, I think I was looking for a deeper dive. I could have did a deeper dive, but that would have been their next plan up. See what I'm saying? So it was there, but you just had to spend more money for it. So,
I'm throwing it back to you.
so
Nah, 20. I didn't trust it. Honestly, when my brother said I'm getting a 23andMe because I blah blah blah, and I said, well, we already got the information, and as it turns out, we already had the information, and I did most of it myself. And if there was a spot where I needed something and I had a roadblock, then I went ahead and paid whatever it was to knock that roadblock down and continue on the journey.
okay. So a lot of that stuff you said you can find out for free, but how do you analyze for free your own DNA? Based on the research they do based on your DNA, which is how they figure out this part of whichever country you're 3% of that, or you're 8% of this, or within Africa you're 18% of this tribe, you're 50% of this tribe. So how do you find that out?
And how do you really know when you send your D? I've always had a. How do you know though? When you send your DNA, first of all, that's weird to me. Just surface level. I'm sending my DNA to you. Take care of it. That's weird to me. But then they get it and they be like, I'm analyzing. And I'm analyzing your spit. Looks like you was from East Africa. I I don't. I don't believe these niggas. Okay, it's not that I don't believe them. It's just
It's hard.
what's the control part of this? What's the proof part? Because you said so. That's all.
You know, you bring up a good point. One way of testing it would be to send them a sample, and they test it, and then you send them another sample later.
I feel like, and I could be misspeaking, but I feel like I seen something, actually a couple things where people would send like their dog's DNA to test, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's from this." It'd be like, "Nah, bro,
Yeah, right.
that wasn't even a person." So that's just like again, it all comes down to I have to trust and believe what you're telling me.
Yeah.
There's no verifiable thing other than that, and this is like.
Well, to be totally frank, I did want the suave thing with heritage, but they're all the same now. I mean, they're all under one umbrella pretty much. But the information that I have, that I've built my tree of 5,000 people so far, is mainly bit by bit with the census records, church records, and whatnot, which is all free. And how do you do that? Well, I had a name. And I went with that name backwards and forward. As far
Your
as
African name.
No. My grandfather's father. I mean,
What was his African name?
who knows?
So he didn't go that far back.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I assume that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went as far back as I could go, but I had to have a starting point. My starting point wasn't going to be in Africa. My starting point's going to be here. I'm going to trace my grandparents, their parents, and so on and so forth.
Oh, okay, we can really go deep in this conversation, and it'd be nice if I could see an endpoint to it, but let me say this, like you mentioned the census or whatever, my mother and her first cousin were, lived in the same town. Back then, they didn't care about your black ass, whether or not they got the information correct or not. They got Mom and Tommy mixed up. And this was the census. And to this day, this is one of the reasons Mom still hates Louisiana and thinks they're backwards and upside down. So, and the reason I get back to the African name, because the slave name doesn't really say anything about us. It's not like we were slaves to one master the whole time we were here. There was a lot of breaking up of the families. We were commodities. We weren't people. So, lost my train of thought. So I'm just trying to get something for me to grasp as to the techniques you use that you feel like were reliable to tracing back, your family.
What's reliable is, you know who your grandmother was or your grandfather? Start there and go backwards. And wherever they were at, that area or whatnot, just go back. And I guarantee you'll find something. And it may not be what you think you're going to find, but you'll find something. Yeah, I agree.
You'll find something, but are you going to find what you hope you're looking for?
That's the
Dream. That's the dream.
Look, when I started doing genealogy, I did it for one reason. My sister, Gail, had some type of aneurysm when she was 28, 29 years old, and it was hereditary. It was only going to be passed down through heredity, right? So I went to find out who the hell am I related to, because they need to go get this test. Because if they find it, they can do something with it. And that was the reason I started out.
Okay.
So I started out with going to the old archives with my mom
Okay.
and going, doing the little things they had in there, so it was real rudimentary, I guess you call it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I got started. And I've advanced to now, I can go pick up my phone right now, go to my tree on Ancestry, type in a name and see who's who and what's what.
Because you trust Ancestry.
No, because I put it in there. I put that information in there. I made that tree.
So you sent it to Andrew, and
Or okay, yeah, I think I see where the question. So with Ancestry, where you're putting in information, are you looking for them to verify that, or they're
No.
just a host?
No, they're just a host. They're just a host. I'm not looking. Look, I went as far as to take a couple of courses out of Boston University online on genealogy.
mm-hmm.
So that's how this tree got started. And everything I put in that tree is verified. It's verified.
Verified by who?
It's verified by
I mean, because that's ultimately
Ultimately, the question of what is the checks and balance of using Ancestry.com for the swab stuff. Now, if you're just using them as a location to put your information,
that's where I'm at now with them. The swab stuff was somebody totally different, who used to be totally different from Ancestry. Now Ancestry's got all of this shit. 23andMe, same thing. They're all on Ancestry now. They're all right there in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay, I still have to get back to the verification, because who's to say the information you uploaded is valid?
Well, then, if it's not valid, then they need to go to the National Archives, take all those records out and dump them and forget it.
Okay, so now we're back to they need to. But how do we make it easy for they need to do what they need to do? So, all right, let me ask a different question. Are you going by name only, or what are you backtracking to validate your researching? Are you going by names?
the name, right?
Name, location.
Okay, could names have changed and could locations have changed?
Yeah.
So if they've changed,
See, here's the thing. Back when we first started, or when I first started, before there was online stuff,
mhm,
you went to the National Archives. I had a name and a location and an approximate year they were born. I put that in. Anything that came close to that, then I could research
Okay.
that.
okay.
Then I could research that to find if one was. And then I would take those that I researched and research those. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I do, and as I hear you speak, I see how much time and loyalty and effort you put into this.
Yeah.
How the hell are we going to get somebody else these days to put that much time and effort in? You put a lot of time and effort
That's
in.
why, like, all of the work that you have, like, you have it. It's in your head, and it's scribbled in the magazines you got, and all, but as it's presented, it's just being real. You got family members like me. I'm not interested. Not that I'm not interested in people. It's just all the research and paperwork. Man, I don't want to. That's more where I'm just like, I don't want to do that. But what, if any, is your plan to present that? Because you can have all the information in the world, but once we as individuals are gone, like, Is that leaving with you? Is that staying in your computer? Like, what is the plan to get that out there? Because you are the pioneer for this.
And I get it.
You're doing something that you love and is interesting for you to do, and that's awesome. And it actually does have real world value, but at this present moment, nobody knows that except you, and it's on you to be able to.
Right. Okay. Now, and that's part of the thing of making sure it's not only ancestry but my heritage, and I think my search is there's more than one item, one place where these 5,000 things are hooked up to. And the idea is to make sure somebody, like I know, for example, Gina and John.
Yeah.
I know Gina is I'm constantly in communication with her because she's constantly going there.
Yeah.
And so there's at least one person that's accessing the information and trying to get it out to other folks. And there are other folks too, because I it doesn't happen all the time, but there are some young folk that I've been communicating with who are into that.
You know what you should do? They have genealogy books that you can write or like fill in, or they will help you write like an AI thing, or just actually, yeah, it would be more AI to help you format and all that stuff. But you can like actually put all the information in a book, and then at that point, the information's here in hard form for somebody to look at. Then it's out of your hands and it's on family. Okay, y'all want to get this and get the research, so you have it. I've done the research. Now you just got to, I would say that would probably be your best, because right now you Superman with the information, but you're Clark Kent with getting it out there.
Yeah. Because anything happens to you, all that information dead-ended. Or just put it on a little thumb drive until you get a chance to get it to paper, right? Just because we've done this in our family, sit down and dictate with the oldest person in the family, Uncle Henry, sit down and videotape him sharing his memories. Because once he's gone, that ended.
That's what I tried to do with y'all. You remember when I interviewed you and I interviewed Aunt Thalia, or I interviewed Aunt Veronica? I was trying to get y'all individual, but Aunt Thalia was trying to jump in, and then Uncle Mario wasn't around, and then Uncle William went on to see him, so started to get all, messed up. But that was, get all the stuff out from people. Anyway.
So, question for Mr. Producer, Mr. C.J. Dudley.
Yes.
Okay. You have skepticisms about, like, is it only 23andMe or the whole science?
The whole thing.
Okay. Which is good. You brought up a good point with the dog slobber. And I've heard that story before, and you're right. But do you believe in the science of DNA?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think it's trustworthy in terms of tracing where we came from, going back to the caveman or whatever?
I don't know. I think, my official answer is I don't know. Okay, now, it's all on if I believe you know what you're talking about. And I mean, you can look at anything besides this. You can talk to a doctor. You can choose to believe the doctor or not. It's all on personal level how much you trust. Because anybody can say anything, and it can be the truth or a lie. Whether you believe it or not is on you. So, I think it's possible to do all that stuff. I'm just not well versed in how the research goes and how they connect dots and how you take my spit and be like, yeah, there was a dude in South Africa named, he was your uncle. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know the process, so I'm skeptical of it. And even now, let's take it to a different category, like the moon landing. I've seen the things. I'm still skeptical. You can show me all the things on video or tell me your knowledge, but it all comes down to whether I believe it's possible. If I believe the way you say you did it, it happened. Same thing with genealogy. Once I send my spit off and you send me back a whole packet of my family, I gotta choose to believe that. You know?
So, would you accept the fact? Let's
Somebody's
say.
phone going off.
Mine.
Oh,
Let me see if it's a doctor or somebody important.
You pause it?
Likely.
no. So, let's say you were at the point where you believed in the DNA interpretation of genealogy, and you saw your chart. How hard would it be for you to believe I trace back to Iceland or Greenland or something else crazy, Madagascar? How hard would that be for your brain to accept that?
You know, it's weird because as you're saying that, how hard would it be for my brain to accept that? I think my brain would be like, oh, that's possible. Slave master was in my quarters just like he was in yours. I'm sure. That would be my official answer. I'm sure. But if you like, okay, so you believe this? Well, I mean, it could be. I'm still on the fence. Ain't nobody proved nothing to me. And I don't know. Unfortunately, I am one of them people. I don't know exactly what it would take to prove things to me. I'm just on my George Clooney in what's that movie? What's the Quentin Tarantino? Dang, I'm dropping stuff. Quentin Tarantino movie with the vampires.
Dusk to Dawn.
Yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn. Oh, watch your head. Watch your head. That's why we be having the table over there, but we moved it so you hit your head. Yeah, so sorry about that.
I didn't realize I was that tall.
Sorry about that. But George Clooney in that
Whiplash.
movie, he said, I don't want to hear shit about I don't believe in vampires. Because I don't believe in vampires. But what I do believe in is my own two eyes. And what I saw was fucking vampires. That's what I be on. I be like, listen, I don't really believe that. Now, if I see it with my eyes, not on the TV, then it's a different discussion. But until then, I'm just like, could be. I won't deny you, but I'm not going to fully accept you.
Would you leave the door open a little bit to accept the fact that going back through history, there were people who drank blood
Oh, yeah.
straight from the body?
I don't know if this putting anybody out. I know a couple people who still take a little sips, and I'd be like, ugh. So,
Blood?
yes. Oh, there's some crazy mugs out here, bro.
That's why I don't mess with a Ouija board. I don't mess with
Oh,
the
no.
circle and shit. I
I
don't,
don't
mess
fuck with
that
them
shit.
squeegee boards.
No, I ain't the one.
Well,
Because that shit is real to me.
yeah, to a certain point, I agree. I would not, okay, from here out to the street in North Carolina, our house to the corner grocery. They would ask me to go to the store, to the corner grocery to get some milk or whatever. I was like maybe 5 or 6. I wouldn't do it. Because I didn't know if the vampires or anybody was out of werewolf. It got dark. Shit scared me.
I mean, I hear you, but to be fair, that's you as a kid. We talking adult, fully formed brain, and then somebody giving you information, and your fully formed brain deciding whether you're going to take that.
Well, to be honest with you, that shit still go on.
What, the vampires?
No.
Oh. My bad.
Nah.
Like, they still out there?
woke me up. I was dozing, I guess.
so like,
Well, okay. Would you call, why are bats not considered vampires?
What?
They come out at night and they bite you and they suck your blood. Bats. B-A-T.
do bats really suck blood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
really.
Oh, I didn't even know.
He never got none of mine, but
I'm saying,
Not that I know of.
only bat I encountered, we fought that nigga and beat him up, and threw him out the trash bag. So he didn't bite me. Well, okay, wait, let me see. Let me see where we at.
Which brings up another point. How do bats not piss on their face?
Oh, when they're upside down?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So there's a movie called Wild America about these three white boy brothers. And it's a true story. These guys really exist. But as teenagers, they decided to go. They got this new camera and they were going to film all these wild animals and stuff like that. And they got to a location where they were in a cave and there was bats. And the bats were shitting and peeing, but they was upside down, but it was coming in a straight down stream. So for you to say that, I'm like, that's a good question. Because the way they hanging, I'm like, unless it goes out like a spout, it would come straight down, at least in the way they depicted it in the movie. I'm sorry I was so animated about that, but that's the thing. Animals, that bitch be upside down, so, like...
Unless they got a tribe of bats, Magic Mike bats. I never piss on my face.
No.
So, hey, how much time do we have?
Well, I mean, honestly, we've been on about 41 minutes, so we can go another up to 20.
Okay. So, what have we established? Genealogy, you haven't completely shut the door on genealogy.
No.
You are still... I mean, I really salute you for what you're doing, because my cousin Tommy, she does that. I tried to have a conversation with her. It goes over me, because she will be, and your uncle blah, 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 and blah, and his father. And we were actually descendant of a general. General Woodard. He is like my great grandfather, but he looked out for the black slaves during that time, and whoever would have thought that. So the research you're doing that's huge.
It is. I be looking at it, I be like, man, you put in work. And I apologize from the bottom of my heart that I don't feel the same way about it as you, guys. I know you'd love to just pass it to me, but pass it to me, I'm probably gonna fumble it. So, but I definitely salute you, because that is work.
That's work. But get it on tape, man. Get it out of your head and on tape. And now, is it gonna hurt your feelings if you find out that aliens had a lot to do with? I know it sounds like a joke, but a lot of things that have happened, like CJ mentioned, can't remember it, but to me, like the pyramids, I mean, there were giants, but where did the giants go that used to roam the earth, who built the pyramids? How is it we know some of what we know? Because we haven't been that clever for a long enough time. And there's stuff happens that I believe human beings had alien help to get there. So if you find out you had a great uncle had alien DNA in him, is that gonna fuck with you?
no.
So you accept the aliens?
I've always accepted the aliens. I've always believed that we are the aliens.
To who? You I might agree with you. To who?
Huh?
Were the aliens to who?
To the Earth people,
Who were the Earth people?
not us.
Good, not answered.
Hmm?
Who are the Earth people?
Are the Earth people still here?
Are they in Middle Earth?
They're white. Yeah.
So you saying the first people on Earth were white people? See, you lost me. I don't agree with that.
I don't
Sorry.
remember that either.
I mean, unless you're in one of your joke things, but it doesn't seem like you are. I
can't-
disagree.
I can't tell.
I can't either.
You pulling my leg, man? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. So, the Earth people. There is some evidence that there are people that live not on the surface like us, but in the Earth.
Hollow Earth, the Hollow Earth theory, as they call it.
So you buy into that? No. Why? Why?
Exactly.
Well, no. Why? What?
Did you drop some acid, man?
Hey, here's a question. How is it so easy for people to believe in aliens but not in Hollow Earth?
Like,
Now, all of it goes on stuff we ain't seen. Now, again, this is me crossing into my lines of you ain't proved nothing to me. But I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I always be thinking something. And my thing is, just because we haven't seen something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And going back and doing research for some of these people that were like in the military back then and who had done these things and taken record of it, like, do we take that as truth, or do we say no, that's a crazy theory, so that person had to be lying? I mean, it kind of goes all back to, do I believe in the genealogy results? It just depends. I don't know, man. A lot of weird shit that can and has and hasn't happened. So, I don't know.
So let's contrast genealogy theory versus religious theory that we came from Adam and Eve. Is one right all the time and the other is wrong all the time? Or is there a combination of, yeah, I can buy that, but I can't buy that?
are you looking at me for an answer?
You talk.
Okay, let me ask a different answer. How old is mankind?
I have no idea.
6,000?
Okay. So, if you had your choice between 6,000 years and 15 million years, which one would you go with? The age of mankind as we know it today.
Okay. I'm talking, like, real quick for you. I was talking in, like, biblical sense. If we're talking according to the Bible, 6,000 years. But if we're talking according to whatever else the world says, the term mankind can refer to different things. But in terms of the species Homo sapiens, the earliest fossil of an anatomically modern humans date back roughly 300,000 years. However, mankind can also refer to the genus Homo, in which case it would include species like Homo erectus and Homo habilis, pushing the timeline back further, potentially to millions of years ago. So, depending on what you believe.
So there's what you believe and what you choose to believe. So what do you believe first and what do you choose to believe second?
That's a way.
Trying to break that in my mind. The separate. Ask your question again.
What do you believe
What do you believe?
and what do you choose to believe?
And what do you? That's crazy. Wow, man, that's kind of a mind fuck. Because in my mind, you're choosing to believe what you believe. They should be one and the same. If you believe something, like in your heart, I believe that shoe has red in it, but I'm choosing to believe that it's blue. You got issues. Like that goes out of outward conversation into an internal what's what's happening. Because if you can't, well, you know what? People will say that to me about the moon. If you can't see what's right in front of you, there ain't no helping you.
But I saw them.
Moon landing. And I don't believe it. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go back to the question. That question kind of messed me up. What do you believe and what do you choose to believe?
Well, I mean, it messed you up because you have to think about that, because we don't, most of the time, we don't think about what we believe and what we choose to believe. Let's say you go to court, right? You go to court, there's an all-white jury. There's no evidence to say that you did the crime. There's no believable evidence. But
The jury decides that
they brought some effed up evidence against you with nothing to prove it's true, but they choose to believe you did it.
that's actually not.
That's
I mean, that you
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
that when
that's
you
not
would
good.
be able to see kind of a clear bias in my mind at that. But I mean, I think it's still the same. Having evidence is, we're really locked into the police court thing right now. But having evidence in front of you, that's, well, you know what? No, that always goes back to interpretation, though.
yeah.
You know,
What will you choose?
yeah, you know, because we can look at the same thing and see different things.
Yes.
Ah, this world sucks.
So, so it's like the moon landing. I want to believe it happened,
I do too.
but I can't say you can hold a gun to my head and say, okay, you got to choose. I'm like, just shoot me, because I want to believe it, but the Gary brain just won't accept it the way you're explaining it.
See, and the way you said it there is the way actually I can put it in my mind clearly. That question is I just lost it. What did you just say?
Oh, the moon landing. Yeah.
After that? Something about, I see it, but I'm choosing to believe. Oh man, I just lost my thought. Dang.
Yeah, you choose to believe. Let's say you know it's true, but you choose to believe that it's true. Like, I'm looking at a striped apple. You know that's a striped apple tree, but you choose to believe I'm looking at a striped apple because you haven't seen one.
Yeah.
It's not a good optic.
No,
Okay.
man. You okay, man?
Oh, man. Or what we the way you said it, like I see it, but I can't believe it, even though I saw it. What you're choosing to believe, the way you asked it, what you believe versus what you're choosing to believe, it was hard for me to put together in my head. But what you want to believe versus what you do believe, that I can wrap my head around that. I want to believe we went to the moon. I don't believe it. So that's why it's hard for me to say, I believe we went to the moon, but I also believe, no, it's either I do or I don't.
Okay, so that gets back to evidence, let's say.
How much evidence would you need?
Okay, let me get back to the striped apple. Okay, that's a striped apple tree. I see a striped apple. You look out the window. You don't see a striped apple. So it's either I'm lying, I'm delirious, or that's not really a striped apple tree.
Or it's
So-
not really a tree.
Hold that. So the choices get to be, oh man, you're making that up, or that's not a striped apple tree, or I didn't see it, so I don't believe it's a striped apple tree. So either I'm lying, or you don't believe it because you didn't see it. So
Now-
it's kind of like you in the moon thing.
Now, are we talking, you see it, the three of us having a conversation about a striped apple tree.
Yeah.
Now, are we talking in the context of the three of us, or talking in the context of telling this to other people?
Okay, so okay, I'm glad you brought that
Because
up.
if the three of us are talking and you
Yeah.
say, I see a striped apple tree,
Yeah.
and I say, I see a striped apple, we could stop right there and you can clarify all of that. Be like, do you see, well, show me the apple with the stripe.
Okay.
And then that immediately will make me be like, oh, I guess there ain't no apples with stripes. That tree got a stripe. That's a verifiable thing. But now, once we've had that conversation, and let's say we didn't come to a conclusion, you still know the apples is striped. It's coming off the striped tree, so they got stripes in them somewhere. Wherever, however you feel about that. When we take this conversation and go tell the world about this tree, how do we convince them?
Okay, that's taking it deep. Okay, I'm looking at a striped apple. You come over, you don't see the striped apple.
Oh,
Amber alert.
yeah. Well, public safety message, Yang Mount Lake Terrace. They didn't actually give me any information on.
I think they're still.
Young Mount Lake Terrace. While https://bit.ly/Mount Lake Terrace is over alert.
Yeah.
That's it, Mama.
I'm saying, I was like, you didn't really give me no information, and I ain't nowhere near Mount Lake Terrace.
Keep that to yourself. So before I lose my thought, which I will, I see a striped apple on this tree. I won't call it a striped apple tree. That's throwing you off. But I see a striped apple growing on this tree.
Mm-hmm.
You come over. You don't see it. David doesn't see it. We walk away. We go our three separate ways. I saw a striped apple tree. Somebody asked me. I said, I saw it. You didn't see it. So you say, I don't know, was he high or what? I didn't see it. You didn't see it. So you say, oh, he's just lying. He's a street philosopher. He'll say anything. Who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah. And I don't think that has an answer. I think what we said earlier, going back to interpretation and taking in information, I don't know, man. It really all falls on a trust system and who you trust more.
And so that kind of gets back to, we're kind of bringing it back home
Yep.
with the DNA. Do you trust DNA science? Or do you trust the people gathering information? Like in your case, you trusted the system that gathers information, right? To get your information. And the DNA, you weren't concerned about the DNA.
Right.
So for me, when I ask, how do you trace it back to your African roots? To me, I'm asking from the DNA perspective, how do you trace back who you are to Africa? So, and if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying, I'm not trying to do that.
I'm not, because I'll tell you why. It's really simple. The further back you go, everything doubles.
Yeah. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there comes a point to where there's 20 of everything that you're related to.
Which, I mean, shows why, you made the smarter decision, reverse engineering, starting, okay, my dad. And then you can do that as opposed to trying to start with your spit in South Africa. So, we are at about 58 minutes, so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that was a good one. I'm sitting here with my DNA
As always.
My peeps.
and thinking about the outside and the striped tree that used to be there. And this was stimulating. It was a good show.
I think so too. I think
It moved and it was relevant. So I guess I will. My thought of the day is, did you see the parade? Okay. Okay. That was.
You mean, did we see the walk?
Did you see the walk?
The walk.
That was embarrassing. To other countries, I hope we're reaching out to other countries. What you saw, that doesn't reflect on us. That is,
It does.
It does actually, and
Well, yeah, it
because
does,
the
yeah.
way the soldiers marched or the way they walked, that was their protest. They didn't want to be there.
right. But
So,
then, yeah.
and I think I will always say that a person is smart, people are dumb. But when we talk about people in the context of the world watching America, they're not dumb. They see, just like we see, what's going on. It's a whole bunch of fuck shit. Nobody agrees with him here in this country. Well, most people don't. But you have the outside country looking, and they look at that parade, and they look at the sad
Yeah.
state of it. And I'm sure they're like, yeah, America's pretty whack right now. But they not dumb. They know we ain't with them, but they also know we can't do shit about it. So, I don't think they're clown. I don't think they look at the military thing and we're clowning. I think they're like, they don't want to do it, and they're showing it.
Right.
Like, I'm sure they could do better. They just don't want to.
They were showing him, you don't get a chance to brag about it was the biggest, the best parade. Everybody, you don't get a chance to brag about this.
Nah.
They're not here for your birthday. So anyway, if you want to have some fun, go to YouTube and do a research for Puppet Regime. You're going to laugh your ass off in the whole rest of your body. Peace. Be
right.
well, stay safe.
Peace.
Later.